We can speak to Fawaz Gerges, Professor of International Relations at the London School of Economics. Very kind of you to join us on the weekend, Fawaz. Israel obviously denies that there's any famine in Gaza. It says trucks are entering the enclave. But what about the competing narratives? Can you talk to us about those? Because Israel says Hamas has been looting trucks. We at TRT World have spoken to people from northern Gaza who know members of these armed gangs and have identified them as working with the Israeli military.
Well, thanks for having me, Adnan. Israel basically has telegraphed and advertised its decision to starve the Palestinians from the first day of the war on the 7th of October. They have weaponized food aid to the Palestinians. I am not really impressed at all by the United Nations report yesterday, officially and formally declaring famine in northern Gaza and many areas in Gaza as well. Palestinians have been starving for the past 2 years, many millions of Palestinians. And we need to know that yesterday, at the same time, that the experts responsible about the food security in Gaza, another report released by the United Nations, Adnan, and has not received any publicity in the Western media at all. And the report says, and I'm quoting from the United Nations report on the weaponization of food aid by Israel. It says, quote unquote, in the past 2 years, Israel has basically engaged in the destruction of Palestinian agriculture, the destruction of Palestinian food sovereignty, the destruction of Palestinian civil society, and the construction of a death trap, And that's what we are witnessing today. And I am also surprised why the media keep quoting Israel and saying, well, look, there is no starvation. I mean, we know Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, in the words of Israeli officials, he's a serial manipulator. He's a serial liar. He's a serial war criminal. In the words of a former Israeli general, he described him, he said, he breathes falsehood. When Benjamin Netanyahu breathes, he breathes falsehood. So there is overwhelming evidence by the United Nations, by humanitarian agencies, by independent observers, and also by Palestinians. All you have to do is to look at the images, the horrible images of starved children and vulnerable people in Gaza.
Fawaz, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you appeared almost exasperated and said that the world now belongs to the most powerful and nobody else can compete against them. And I just wanted to investigate something you said about the media. I was listening to one of the world's most highly respected media organizations just 24 hours ago, and their analysis from a Palestinian journalist was that there is nothing else the British government can do to persuade the Israeli government to stop its attacks on Gaza. How is that even possible that the journalist didn't talk about the fact that the British government sells Israel weapons? In other words, you, as an international analyst, do you notice the difference when you appear on different networks around the world about how they are portraying the conflict?
Well, Adnan, you basically cited the UN officials who talked about famine is now fully fledged in Gaza. And he talked about the fact that this is the 21st century famine. And this is basically Israel is directly responsible for the famine in Gaza. This is a man's-made famine. But let me go further, Adnan, and I don't exaggerate. This is not just an Israeli constructed famine. This is a Western-enabled famine. For your audience, please, anyone who's listening, don't buy the statements of moral condemnation by Western leaders, because they are crocodile tears. My question, Adnan, is that what actions, what sanctions, what punitive measures have Western governments where I am, in the United Kingdom and Germany and Italy and France, have imposed on Israel? The irony is, I mean, look, listen, just the irony is that Britain imposed sanctions on two extreme ministers in Israel, only two, yet all the decisions are taken by the Israeli government. The famine in Gaza is directly, basically, constructed by Israel, enabled by Israel and the United States. I mean, the United States, Israel on its own, could not really basically do what it has done. The United States now has enabled, the United States and Germany to a large extent, have enabled the famine in Gaza. And the Western media, and I don't exaggerate, is an integral part of the Western official or semi-official narrative about Israel. It's extremely difficult to basically appear on a major Western media channel and really talk about genocide, mention genocide or war crimes, and mention the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is a serial liar. He's a manipulator. He has been lying for years. We all know him. The Americans know him. But yet, look what President Trump said just a couple of days ago. He described Benjamin Netanyahu as a war hero. He said that he's a good man. So why should Benjamin Netanyahu not do what he has been doing in the past 2 years, basically starving the Palestinians and turning Gaza into a death trap, as the United Nations made it very clear yesterday?
Just finally, rather than a 1-hour lecture in a lecture hall of your august institution, Fawaz, give us a 1-minute summary of what you think professors of international relations will be teaching about this war in the years to come.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing I would say, Adnan, we need a new language. We need a new terminology. We need a new ethical system. People talk about the rupturing of the international-based order. We are beyond that. Now, openly, you and I, we're watching a genocide unfolding in Gaza. We're watching more than 500,000 Palestinians are being starved before our eyes. Not even a single word from Washington. Did you hear any word from the Trump administration? Hardly any word. And when Donald Trump was asked about Israel's decision to escalate its war against the Palestinians, he said, Israel knows best what it has to do for its own security, giving Benjamin Netanyahu a green light. And here's my final point. This is now a new era. Anything could happen. I mean, a new precedents have been created. And I fear about the future because the entire system now has been shattered to a million pieces.
I'd probably choose to write my thesis on why President Trump almost refuses to say the word Palestinian, Fawaz. Thank you so much indeed.